get
So
it. So
when did you decide to that you wanted to become a writer, and what was sort of the evolution of that process?
Well, the other part of that is I wrote from the time I was a child. All of this was not, these are not, conscious things that were really given to me. When I was young, and I used to get in trouble with my mother, which was often, my mother used to make me write essays about what I had done and why I had done it. And I'm talking about like age 6 and age 7, I mean, what would later be blog posts, basically. My mother used to make me do this. And, reading and writing was everywhere around me. It was just a strong, component in my childhood. I came up in the era of hip hop, which was all about, writing and being literary. Comic books. I mean, it was just, there was no real escape from it. It was all around me. And such to the point that I didn't think about it as education. I didn't really make the connect between what was at home and what was at school too much, until much, much later.
But at some point you fell into the field of professional writing.
I did.
So how did that happen?
Yes.
Because you left Howard.
Right.
And fill us in on
right.
How that...
So I actually was still at Howard, and professional writing is actually responsible for why I probably didn't finish my education. When I was 20 years old, I got an internship at the Washington City paper, which was basically with the Village Voices up here in DC, where I was going to college. And the internship was paying, it paid you a base rate and it paid you if you got anything in the paper. My editor actually was David Carr, who's at the New York Times, who I'm sure has been here at some point, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, of course, okay. That was my first editor. He was not David Carr, who he is now then. And yet in so many ways he was. I mean, as a human being he was, as a person he was. But, he at that point was, just coming off of his issues with drugs, which he's talked about and written about, and alcohol and that sort of thing. And I met him at a very, very young age, and he was such an odd character, and I think like once I got in there and figured out that people would actually pay you to write, that, I had been a kid who was like really, really curious. I would always have questions, so much so that I would just like wear my older brothers and sisters out with questions. And, the idea that somebody would pay you to ask questions and answer questions was absurd to me. I mean, it was actually ridiculous. And pay you to learn how to write better was incredible to me. And so I don't know if I should say this at CUNY, but I will say it. The idea that, I was in school and I was paying people, and I wasn't sure that I was getting better at writing, and I wasn't sure that I was pursuing the questions that I was interested in. And the prospect that somebody would pay me to do that made it a no-brainer. I knew right then that I should leave school. I was pretty clear immediately, at 20, that I should leave school right now. I did not have the courage to do it at the time. No one around me encouraged me to do that. Everybody thought it was a pretty bad idea, for good reasons too. But I felt it and eventually, acted on it.